it's really hard to realize that actually you're part of people's lives. Literally, until I put that post on Instagram, I probably didn't understand it, that people are sitting at home with their family every Sunday watching the World Cups. So I was very flattered, incredibly flattered, and very surprised by the reaction to it.
Hi and welcome to episode 77 of Bin weg bouldern. I am your show host, Juliane Fritz, and I guess most of you know who my guest is. The voice you just heard is well known in the climbing scene. It is Charlie Boscoe. Until recently, the commentator of the IFSC events. A person that I really wanted to meet and talk to in my podcast. Personally, I like his style as a commentator very much, and my plan was to meet him at the Bouldering Worldcup in Munich this year to interview him for Bin weg bouldern, but the World Cup did not take place. And a few days ago in November, Charlie announced that he will stop commentating for the IFSC. So I thought, I have to do this now. I invited him for an online interview, and this is it. I am very happy that he took the time. It was an interesting talk where we looked back at his years with the IFSC events, and Charlie shared his thoughts on the European Championships in Moscow. We talked about competition climbing in general, about the Olympics, and we get to know what Charlie Boscoe is doing, or what he was doing, when he was not in front of the cameras to talk to the climbing world. Have fun with this episode. Before this episode starts, I want to thank all of my listeners who support this podcast. One way to support is a crowdfunding on the platform Steady, where you can choose a monthly supporter package that helps me to make a living from this podcast. If you'd like to support me too, just check my website. The links are in the show notes. And I would be happy to welcome you as a supporter of Bin weg bouldern. Hi Charlie, and welcome to the Bin weg bouldern podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm just sitting on my couch drinking a gin and tonic, so if you hear a little bit of ice banging together, that's what it is.
Yeah, I heard it before when we were chatting a little bit before the interview. That sounds really nice. I have water.
I take hydration very seriously. I'm an athlete. So.
I see.
There's my ice. You hear it?
Yeah. Prost, we say in Germany.
Prost, yeah, exactly. Prost.
Yeah, at first, of course, I have to say something that you might have heard a lot these days. Charlie, I will really miss your voice at the IFSC competitions, because for me, you are the voice of competition climbing. And I think you hear these kind of sentences a lot. And what does it feel like?
Firstly, thank you very much. It's very kind. I have to say, I put something on Instagram about the fact I was leaving the IFSC, and honestly, I didn't really think many people would care, because when you do the IFSC job, you're very in the moment. You think about what you've just said, what you're saying next, whether your tone is right, your pitch is right, the speed of your voice. You're trying to do the job in real time, and I think maybe it's really hard to realize that actually you're part of people's lives. Mm. And there are people saying, oh, I've watched you for 5 years with my family. And I think literally until I put that post on Instagram, I probably didn't understand it, that people are sitting at home with their family every Sunday watching the World Cups. And I've been part of their life and probably hadn't realized it. So I was very flattered, incredibly flattered, and very surprised by the reaction to it. Yeah, it really surprised me, but in a lovely way. So many nice comments, and I appreciated all of them, and I tried to reply to as many as I could. And I was really, really touched by it. So thank you very much.
For me, I must say, when I started being interested in climbing or in competitions, you were the person, who sat there and talked to me.
Yeah, it's funny because when I think about myself, I still see the guy at Myringen in 2016 at the first World Cup who was just terrified and did a really bad job, and I still think of myself as that guy who's just feels like he's about to be found out. You know, it's funny to hear people say that because I think I don't feel very confident in my ability to do it. And I'm always nervous and I always think I'm going to screw up and I always think that I'm doing a bad job. And I think that's probably a healthy mindset, but it's nice to hear that people do enjoy it and that it's not terrible.
It's not. And it's interesting that you remember this first competition. So what was it like? It was in Meiringen, as you just said.
In autumn 2015, I basically spent quite a lot of time convincing the IFSC that they needed to give me a job.
Ah, okay. And that's the way you got that job?
Yeah, so people may or may not be aware, before I did the IFSC, I worked for Epic TV for 2 years doing the Climbing Daily Show, and that was kind of my first break in media. I'd never done anything like it, and went for a test at Epic TV, and somehow, in fact, I know I was the only person who did a test, so I got the job. And then when I stopped doing that, I thought, well, I should work for the IFSC. I've been to some of their events. I know all the athletes. So I started emailing them asking for a job, not expecting it to be the commentator job. I just thought some sort of media. I don't know what I had in mind, but I just thought they were a logical people to ask for a job. And so we talked lots, and I had to work quite hard at it. But yeah, I got it. We signed a contract at the end of 2015. So Meiringen 16 was the first World Cup.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, and then what do you remember exactly about the first World Cup there in Meiringen?
Oh, honestly, I don't really like talking about it because it just makes my hands sweat. It makes my stomach feel strange. I've never known nerves like that. Again, I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but I lived in Chamonix for 8 years and I was really into alpine climbing and ski mountaineering, steep skiing. And as we say in English, you're playing for all the cards. You bet the farm on it. You really are taking quite big risks in the mountains doing those things. But I've never been more scared than that first event for the IFSC. It was much more scary than any alpine climbing I've ever done, for sure. It was just completely terrifying. Overwhelmingly terrifying.
Do you remember a moment when you somehow overcame that terror of fear a bit?
No, I still get it most events, to be honest. I remember the morning of it, it felt like I'd got on a plane I knew it was going to crash. It was like I just wanted to get off. I remember I walked into the venue and I was so nearly just walked out, got in my car, turned my phone off and drove home. I was just,
oh my God.
I was so nervous. I just didn't know what to do because you're live. It's just nothing compares to that. And I'd done some live stuff with a small audience, but never on that scale. And the music starts and the venue fills and the director says in my ear, okay, 10 minutes to live. And I was just thinking, I can't do this. But you just find a way, and it was pretty bad, I think. And the first year was pretty bad, really. But and the nerves haven't got much better. I still get pretty nervous. But you just learn by doing it, I guess.
True. Somehow I feel, because I'm doing the national German championships, that you come into a kind of flow while you're doing it and start like, I don't know, it makes the fear go away a bit.
Yeah, I think I always found that if I got started right, I was okay. It's the moment of starting that's scary. Normally, it would depend on the IFSC. We had various different setups in the years I was there, but I might be standing with it, holding a microphone, and the director saying, okay, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30, 10, 9, and you hear it coming, and you just, if you can get that first 2-3 minutes good, then you're away. But it's so nerve-wracking before that first 2 minutes.
You know, I think it's interesting that you're saying this because I don't know if I misread what you wrote on Instagram. I have to find it again. You said that you somehow were not terrified anymore of these events.
Yeah, I think the terror has gone, actually. It's an exaggeration to say that I'm as scared. And you definitely get nervous, but I think what changed was I knew how to do it. And so I just knew how how to do my thing. And I knew that I could turn up, and as long as I had checked the boulders and I knew the climbers and I'd had a good night's sleep, I knew I could do it. I think that's what's changed. It doesn't mean you don't get nervous, but it's not terrifying because it's not unknown anymore. Suddenly you know it. And that definitely reduced the fear. But you definitely get nervous, but it's not that sort of overwhelming terror of what is this going to be like.
Mm. Do you feel like you made some developments or changes in the way you are commenting the live streams, that like some improvements?
Other people would have to judge whether it was an improvement, but I think Mike Langley and I really studied how commentary works, and there's a very good podcast about commentating that we listen to religiously.
Oh, what is it?
It's called Q Commentator.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a recent thing, only the last year or so. What's interesting is when they interview famous commentators, the commentators say what Mike and I had worked out for ourselves, which is really satisfying. So the interviewer would ask the commentator a question and their answer would be the answer I would give. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. I think the same thing.
And what was that, for example?
They would ask them about the pitch and tone and when you should speak quickly and when you should speak slowly and when you should have silence, or how you use your co-commentator is another big thing that Mike and I talked about a lot. But I think the main thing I did, I wish Q Commentator was 5 years older because I would have had it before. I think the main thing I did was I studied other sports, and I used to think, why is the commentator using that word? How has he asked the question to that person? How has he explained a rule without actually saying, here's the rule? All these subtle things that they do. What's the interaction? What percentage is the commentator talking? What percentage is the co-commentator talking? And I used to watch it and really study what they were doing. And there are really clear patterns. So I think the big thing I did was have a bit of structure, not necessarily what I was going to say and when, but understanding when to slow it down, when to speed it up, when to ask Mike a question, when to just do all the talking myself, how I could explain the rules. Yeah, try and have a little bit of structure and a bit of a system to work through. And that really made a big difference. And also, I think you just become more familiar with the whole thing. I mean, I'd been to probably 5 World Cups before my ringing the first one I did as a commentator. And now I've probably been to, 70? I don't know, lots. Mm-hmm. So you just become more familiar with the whole thing. And I think you learn the language of the competitions a bit better just from being around them for 70 weekends.
What was it like for you watching the European Championships now? I mean, I guess for this event you were still planned to be there, and now you were not there. So did you sit on your sofa at home and did you watch everything? What was it like?
Honestly, no, I didn't watch everything. I watched the important bits, but to be honest, I started watching it at the start of the week and it just felt like work. It just felt like work I wasn't getting paid for. And I couldn't help but think as if I was doing the job, because you have to remember, I've talked over every minute that the IFSC has broadcast World Cup, World Championship and Youth World Championship since the end of 2015. You just can't turn that off. And also Matt and I had been talking a lot. You know, we spoke 2 or 3 times while he was in Moscow, and we spoke a lot before it. So I was also kind of studying what Matt was doing and making some notes to tell him. So it just felt like work. So I just thought, you know what, I'll just watch the combined. And that's what I did.
How did you like it?
I feel like every time we have a combined competition, we learn something about the format. There's some new scenario that comes up that no one's kind of thought of. I liked it. I guess the problem you have is that speed kind of randomizes the results. When you don't have speed specialists, maybe you have 1 or 2, it means that people get almost a random head start or a random disadvantage after the speed. But as I said, you know, whenever this came up on the IFSC and people complained about the format, I always said, yeah, but it's the format, and we all knew it was going to be the format, so don't complain about it. I think it still feels a bit strange when people come off the speed wall either much further ahead than you'd expect or much further behind. But that's the format, and we all knew it was going to be the format. So it's slightly random, but I still think the best climber generally wins.
Yeah, and formats change and will change.
Yes. Yeah.
But how did you like the end, the lead climbing, where 2 times athletes were like at the head of the ranking, and then suddenly not any longer?
Yeah, well, it felt like work, because the hardest thing about the combined when you're commentating is trying to figure out who's going to win. Because, as you know, if you finish ahead of someone, you not only get your score, but you change their score. So nothing is certain. Yeah, so I was just so happy it was Matt trying to do that, not me. That was all I could think about, was thank God it's not me trying to do this. It certainly made it dramatic. I wouldn't necessarily have predicted that Alexei would do it. I know he's had he's a pretty major injury recently, so I was pleased for it. I like Alexei as a guy, and I was pleased for him. It wasn't the result I was expecting, and again in the women's, was it a big surprise?
To me, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was. She had a pretty amazing week. So yeah, it was dramatic, but a huge part of me was just still kind of working, listening to it. So it wasn't that enjoyable to watch, to be honest. I think I need a bit of time away from it.
I must say I understand, yeah, that it feels like work.
I haven't watched an IFSC stream without me talking over it for 5.5 years, so it's just hard to just suddenly be back on the couch as a fan again.
But I have one more question about commentating, as I'm doing the job too. Like last year, I started commentating here in Germany. What I think is really exhausting, and what I think people don't see at home, is how much multitasking it is.
Yeah.
And that there are these moments where you just try to look up something in the ranking or in your notes, or someone of the live stream crew sends you a message, and just in that moment you miss something important on the screen.
Yeah.
So these things, and then you are like, what did happen? I don't know. Did you find any way to handle this multitasking?
No, I think what I always compared it to was driving. I mean, everyone remembers when they learn to drive, you just think, how can I do this all at the same time? And now, if you're like me, when you drive, you can't even remember driving when you arrive. It's just so natural. I think commentating, or any job, whether it's flying a plane or anything, things start to happen naturally that were conscious before. So you consciously thought about it, and after a while it happens subconsciously. But I think the multitasking is a big thing, and I've said this on another podcast or an interview. I think when people criticize you, so people would say, oh, it was so obvious in the combined that if Janja was second, that was good enough to win. And you think, yeah, but imagine you're watching the competition, and here's the deal. You have to talk from the start of the competition until the end without a break. You can't go for a pee. You can't have anything to eat. You have to talk constantly. And while that's going on, everybody else watching the live stream is listening to you. And the director's saying to you, do you want that replay of Boulder 2? And you have to get on the intercom to the director and say, yeah, I want that replay, or no, I don't want it. Charlie, what graphics do you want? Do you want the score or do you want the ranking? Okay, give me the ranking. You're looking up facts. You think about who's coming next, what just happened, how many times has Boulder 2 been topped, so that if it gets topped next time, you'll be able to say, that's a 4th top. You're trying to take in all this information and talk to the director and read your phone, because the couple of people that you trust have texted you and given you some information. If you're doing that for 2, 3, 4 hours, you might say something that isn't perfect, but that's life. And it always just kind of made me laugh when people were saying on YouTube, they put a timestamp. Look at 3:15:10 when he described that boulder as this, and you think, man, I've been talking for 3.25 hours.
Yeah,
just give me a break. So yeah, the multitasking is hard. There's no doubt about it. You've got a lot of information coming in, and you can only say one thing at a time. That's the hardest element of it, for sure. If you could just sit there and watch it like a fan, it's one thing, but it's the fact that you've got information coming in all the time. that makes it hard. But without the information, you wouldn't have anything to say.
Yeah, true. What I also think is hard that you see the same boulder climbed by, I don't know how many athletes. I mean, we are commentating also the qualifications of the German nationals. So
Oh, that's tough.
it's like 40, I think about 40 athletes on each boulder. And every time you have to say something about this athlete climbing this boulder, because also I think somehow every athlete needs to be talked about. So it's kind of rude not to say something.
Yeah.
Talk about his climbing. But when you see it for the 20th time.
Yeah, and I think in general, climbing has an issue that it's not always entertaining enough. It's not entertaining to see 40 people try the same boulder. And it's hard as a commentator because sometimes I've been doing IFSC live streams and I know it's boring. I'm not finding it super interesting because maybe it's a lead semi-final and there's 26 people and they're all falling off on the 13th move. It's not entertaining, but you have to try. Part of the job of the commentator is to give people a reason to keep watching.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah, truly hard. So this was one of the things that I find annoying. Is there anything else where you would say, oh, I think this is really annoying?
Oof, could go crazy. No, I think one of the things that I find frustrating with climbing is that entertainment is not always prioritized. So, for example, you were saying you broadcast the qualifiers. Is that high quality entertainment if we have new climbers coming to the sport? I mean, we know the statistics. The number of climbing gyms in the United States has doubled in the last 10 years. I read the other day that as many people climb now as play football in England. This is a huge number of people, and I think we should spend more time discussing whether we're entertaining them, because I think a lot of the time we're live streaming stuff for the sake of it, and the rules are the way they are because that's how they've always been. And I feel like the sport could be made much more entertaining, but the entertainment needs to be made into a priority, which isn't always, which is frustrating.
Is it about the route setting or about something around the event that could be more entertaining?
I don't think it's anything in particular, and I do think it's a very entertaining sport. I mean, you look at our numbers on the IFSC live streams, the increases are amazing. You look at the crowd in Chamonix or Munich or Vale, they're going crazy. It's good to watch, but the good to watch moments are often separated by quite long periods of not much happening. We have the split finals now, men and women climbing separately, so you're asking people to watch 4 hours, and that's like watching a football match and then immediately watching another. I think most people would just watch a football match and they've had enough. I mean, I love Formula One, but I don't want to watch two. You watch one. I think it's a lot to ask people to watch for 4 hours. And if you're going to ask people to watch for 4 hours, then I think you need to think about entertainment. So to me, I would change some formats. I would change some rules to make it entertaining. Don't do what we've always done. Let's really think about how we could make this better to watch and how we can have more amazing moments and less quiet moments. I think that needs to be a priority for climbing post-Olympics.
Okay, I see. But actually what you were saying as an example, that we have the split finals, for me it was an improvement. I think the finals are the most important part, and I want to focus on the one athlete that's climbing and not like with my head like switch from one to the other athlete.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. I think the only thing is you're a big climbing fan, and as I say, I like Formula One. Now some people will watch all the build-up. They watch the race with multiple screens with different timings and pit stops and the tyres and all this information. But ultimately, most people just want to be entertained. I think you personally, are the hardcore climbing fan. And, if you think about the fact that participation in climbing has pretty much doubled in the last 10 years, a lot of those people are quite new to it and they're used to watching other sports which are quick and, really designed to entertain. I think that for most people who are new to the sport, they'd like a couple of hours of really high quality entertainment rather than really studying for 4 hours. But I could be wrong.
I know people who said that they don't like it, that they split the female and the male finals also. So, and these are also people interested in the sport, I think, as much as me.
Yeah, it's a matter of opinion. And one thing I realized early on commentating is nobody is going to like everything you do. So if we split the finals, some people like it more. If we don't split them, some people like it. You can't win. But I could give you another example. I would have less people in a lead semi-final. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 26 is too many in my opinion.
Yeah, okay, that I think I understand, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because realistically there aren't 26 elite lead climbers, so you are kind of waiting for the last hour. Mm. I'm not saying how many it should be, or I don't know how many it should be, or maybe it wouldn't work with less, but I just think things like that should be considered. Maybe if we considered every rule and concluded that this is the most entertaining climbing can be, then we just leave it how it is. But I don't think it's being discussed enough whether we're entertaining people.
Mm-hmm. Let's come back to some of your favorite moments, or maybe also least favorite moments. At first, the least favorite moments, where there's some fails that happened in a live stream that still come to your mind, where you think, oh my God, Charlie, what was that?
Oh, there's too many. Sometimes I ask a question and I just think, why have you asked that? Or something comes out so awkwardly. But to be honest, I try to forget them because there's no point. The worst moments are always just when you make a mistake with the rules. I remember in the first season I made a couple of mistakes where I thought the rule was one thing and it wasn't, and you feel like an idiot all week. But you never make that mistake again. So you just have to try and take a positive from it and just try and learn from it.
Yeah. What in general are things that you loved about commentating?
You can't beat the buzz of being live. I miss it, and you can't replicate it. There's nothing like knowing that it's live in the big moments. I mean, it's one thing to be live, in the first 3 or 4 people in a lead semi-final in China. That's not a big buzz. But when you're in Munich and Janja's coming out, and if she tops a boulder, she wins, or you're in Chamonix and you look, I would stand up on my chair just to get even more excited. And you look and there are just people as far as you can see. And you know that this is the big moment and you have to call it right. And you've got to get your facts right. That I always used to think, what if I say Janja's won because she topped the boulder and she hasn't won? There's this kind of the high point is when you get it right. You've done it well. Yeah, I think that's a big thing more than any specific moment. It's just that buzz of, like Janja topping that boulder in Vale last year when she's done the clean sweep. Yeah. And I intentionally didn't plan anything, even though realistically I kind of knew she was going to do it. Well, you don't know, but she should do it. You're expecting her to do it. But I thought, no, you can't plan it because it'll just sound stupid. And just that buzz when I realized she was going to do it, you just get this huge surge of adrenaline of this is the moment. I think that's really the high point, is knowing you're doing well in a big moment is the best.
Are these Janja moments some of your favorite athletes' moments?
Yeah, because I think I've been really lucky because my start at the IFSC coincided with Janja's. She actually did a couple of World Cups a year before and she won Legends only, but she never won a World Cup. And I've been physically present for every event Janja's ever won. In a way, I kind of feel like she's been the story of my time at the IFSC.
Ah, interesting.
Because, I came along, obviously knew who she was, but she was just a 15-year-old kid who won Legends only. She was clearly good, but I don't think anyone knew how good she was. And to watch her, that first season, it was really obvious she was going to win the lead overall title in her sleep. But she wasn't the finished article, and she won in Paris. And then she started getting really good at bouldering, and then maybe is even better at bouldering now. So I think in a way, kind of Janja's been the story of my time at the IFSC because, she's just been the dominant force at the IFSC. Adam comes and goes. Other climbers come and go and don't compete all the time. But Janja's always there and she always wins. It's been amazing to watch, to be honest. It's really been, I feel like that's been the story of my 5 years has been Janja.
You watched her grow and succeed.
Yeah, and I've watched her life change so much. I mean, she was just, a little kid with braces when I first met her. And now she's a superstar. And sometimes I'll be talking to Janja, whatever, drinking a coffee, and then suddenly climbing fans see her. And I just get pushed out the way, and she's signing autographs and taking selfies. And she's kind of become this star. She's properly famous in Slovenia. And that wasn't the case 5 years ago. It's been interesting, and it's meant that I kind of don't see as much of her as I did in the first couple of years, because she's famous now. I think she's the greatest. Pound for pound, she's the best climber on the planet, and it's been amazing to watch her. I would love to see what she could do outdoors. I'd like to see her maintain her motivation for competitions and just see how good she could be. But we'll see. We'll see what she does after the Olympics.
Besides Janja, were there any other athletes that surprised you?
Do you know what? It's interesting. I think the people who've impressed me actually some of the older climbers. Akio really impresses me. I think people probably play the world's smallest violin. I don't expect any sympathy, but it's not easy to travel around on the IFSC circuit. You're away from your friends and your family and your home, and to keep doing it as she has done, and to have rivalries with Anna and Julie Wurm, and then to take on Miho and Janja. I think Akio is amazing, just to keep doing it. And I think if you look at the physical attributes you lose as you get older, and I'm learning this right now, you lose power, you lose flexibility, and she just doesn't seem to. And I think it's amazing. And she's been doing this, she's been winning World Cups for a decade. It just physically, it just shouldn't be possible. I mean, I've been working with Anna Stohr a bit this summer, and it feels like a long time ago that Anna retired. And Akio was there kind of before Anna, and she's still going strong 5 years after Anna's retired. So Akio is amazing. But I think also kind of the legends on the men's side, I think Adam, Alex, Jakob, those guys really impress me. Just for a human to get to that level of performance is just really hard for anyone who hasn't been around them to understand. We're used to hearing about 9A and 9B and whatever grades, but when you actually see how hard these routes are and how hard you have to train and how dedicated you have to be and what it takes to get good enough to climb 9B, 9C, to win, what is it, Jakob's run 20 World Cups over the space of 10 years. It's just, I think people that have managed that longevity and have got themselves to that elite level, they really, really impress me, because it's, to be honest, for normal people like you and, well, I don't want to say you, maybe you'll be Janja one day, but...
No, I'm not.
For me, it's completely unimaginable. So yeah, the elite impress me. I think they're amazing.
What I was just thinking about is that you experienced this a little bit what the athletes experience too, this whole traveling around. Maybe we don't think about that. Also, you are one of the people who shows up at every event. What does that mean, to do this job and to travel almost the whole year?
Well, I mean, before I did this job, I used to travel more, so I'm kind of used to it actually.
Okay.
Long before I did any media stuff, I used to work as a expedition leader. So commercial mountaineering and trekking expeditions, I would lead them. So I would be away a lot, but the travel was different then, because I would go somewhere for 2 months or 3 months. There's a bit of gypsy or something in me, a bit of nomad. I like traveling. I like the movement. I've missed it this year. Sometimes it's a pain in the ass, to be totally honest, but generally I like it. I kind of feel like I need it, to be honest. I don't like being in the same place, same environment. I love that feeling of just thinking, I'll be in a pub and I think, enjoy this beer because tomorrow you'll be in China. When I'm in China, I think, okay, enjoy this cultural experience because next week you'll be back in your house. You always have some change coming up, and I really enjoy that. So no, I like the travel. I got no problem with it, although I hate jet lag. Obviously, everyone hates jet lag, but it's a small price to pay.
Yeah, when you were talking about this, that it's exciting because there's a change coming up like every day, every week or something. It just makes me think about what we are experiencing right now, where we stay at home all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a shock to the system.
Yeah. And one more question about favorite moments is, was there any moment where you did not know what to say?
In my job, it's not a good idea not to know what to say. I could normally come up with something. Honestly, I don't get emotional watching it. I think that's one thing that would probably surprise people is when you sound emotional, you're trying to sound emotional, but actually you're really calm inside. It's controlled emotion. The only time I really just couldn't say anything was when Alana Yip won in Los Angeles in February.
Why did that make you feel more emotional or really emotional?
You never think about who's climbing. So even if I really like the person climbing, I never maybe I do, but I try not to commentate differently. And I like Alana. We've had a good time traveling to World Cups, but I don't let that affect my commentary. And it was a big moment when she won, but she lowered to the ground and, oh God, I'm getting a little bit, it's actually quite hard to say it.
Yeah.
She lowered to the ground and she didn't know if she'd done enough. And Becca Frangos came over and told her, and Alana just burst into tears. And I was not reacting to her getting to the Olympics. She just burst into tears. And as soon as she did, I just had to turn the microphone off. I couldn't quite get any words out. And that was the only time it's happened. And it was her reaction. It was just, because I know how hard she's worked. And also I'd been there in Hachioji. Obviously she didn't get it. In Toulouse, she probably should have got it. And then suddenly she's in Los Angeles and there's only one space available. And she had some really serious competition. And she was under massive pressure because she's definitely in the top 20 combined athletes and she just narrowly missed it twice. And yeah, it was just her reaction. I just couldn't talk. But Megan Martin was with me and she was the same. We just turned it off and just left it for a second. Yeah, that was the only time I'd been lost for words. I wasn't even lost for words. I just...
Deal with your own emotion for a second.
Yeah, exactly. It was the only time, the only person that's ever stopped me talking.
Thank you for that story.
Yeah, it's emotional talking about it.
Yeah, I believe. Does it make you emotional that you are like not going to the Olympics as the IFSC commentator?
Well, I never was.
It was never planned
No.
that you would go there. Okay.
No, I was going to go. I might still be going for a private company reporting. Don't know. I mean, who knows? I think it's probably unlikely now because I suspect the games will be very restricted. There won't be as many media as they originally planned. Who knows? Maybe I'll go. But no, I was never going for the IFSC because the IFSC weren't providing a commentator. Mm-hmm. It's the Olympic Broadcast Service, and they provide their own commentators. And they had somebody else to do it. It wouldn't have been me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that seems logical. And when you look at climbing, how it developed from where you started, like working in the business until now that we are, well, the climbing sport is going to be Olympic, not this year, but next year. What changes did you see in these years? Like, have the athletes changed? I mean, everyone's talking about how friendly the athletes are amongst themselves. So, but did this change maybe because there's more competition going on, or did something else in the climbing scene change that you realized in these years?
I think it just got bigger. I know that's a bit of a general answer, but the crowds were bigger. The replays on YouTube, they're bigger. Our production quality improved. The climbers became stars much more. There was a time when I could walk down the street with Adam Ondra and it would be fine. And now Adam, almost anywhere, even not at a climbing event, is being recognised. Coincidentally, I flew home with him a couple of times from China this year, last year, and people are recognising him in the airport. And I think the same is true with Yanya and all the climbers. They've become celebrities much more. And I think the sort of famous friendliness of the climbing scene is still there to an extent, but it's a competition. And you can feel that more and more. And I think that's a good thing. I never made an effort to be friends with people. I'm not there to be friends with people. I was there to do a job. I think most of the climbers were pretty similar, actually. I think more and more it's becoming a competition and less a group of friends. I think that's a big change.
Mm. Was there any moment you realized this growth of the sport in an impressive way, like a big crowd that you faced, or I don't know?
Well, there's been a couple of times, like for example, in 2017 we had a World Cup in Edinburgh. I think my feet are still cold. It was at Ratho, the coldest place in the world, and the BBC Olympic correspondent was there. And of course, the Olympic decision was only 1 year old then. And I remember thinking, oh my God, the BBC Olympic correspondent's here. And he's interviewing the climbers and he's interviewing me, and we got him on the live stream. And I think that was probably when it started to feel real. And then the next year, the Innsbruck World Championships, 18, we were on the BBC. It was only on the BBC iPlayer, which is their online thing. It wasn't on the TV channel, but it was on the BBC. You could go on the BBC website and watch the climbing. And I think when it started to come to the attention of the BBC and when the big American networks and the big Australian networks started picking it up, that's when it really feels like it's taking off for me.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I think that's a little bit similar to what Alex Migos also told me when I met him the beginning of the year. Also talking about what kind of changes are happening in his life. He also said that it's hard to handle for an athlete like him, that so many people ask him for interviews, and yeah.
Yeah, and the athletes don't get any media training. They don't know how to do it. It's a change that everyone's kind of learning how to deal with day by day.
Mm. If you met someone who's new to climbing and you wanted to show him how cool competition climbing can be, which events would you tell him to watch or re-watch?
Munich 2019, when Mia destroyed her knee and still got on the podium.
Okay, yeah.
And Janja won and burst into tears.
Yeah.
And Adam couldn't do the last boulder and Jakob could, and Jakob won. That was amazing. That was just one of those. Or Jan winning the year, was it year before? He won it in 17. Jan winning in front of his home crowd was pretty good.
Yeah.
Munich 18 was probably... It's not often you get two classic finals next to each other. You know, you normally get one good one and one okay one. But we had a classic on the men and a classic on the women. Massive crowd, as you know, in Munich. Lots of TV stations all over the world took the feed. It felt like a big event. I think if you don't like that, then it's not the sport for you.
Okay. Well, Munich is the only event that I've been to live as a visitor. And I always think, even when I watch the live streams, that it feels like this event is massive. But I don't know if I just feel like it because I know the event as a visitor, you know?
Also, the venue's amazing. When you're walking up to it, it's beautiful. The stadium itself is amazing. I mean, that's hosted an Olympics. It's hosted a Football World Cup final. Every big band, the Rolling Stones, AC/DC, Elton John, they've all played at that stadium. Mm. The stadium is incredible. The crowd are into it. No one comes to Munich who's never seen climbing before. They're all into it. Mm. So they all know when to cheer and what to cheer and who the people are. And it's one of the standard. And I really like Munich. I mean, what a town. I had so many good nights in the brow pubs of Munich. So we won't go there. But the Hofbrauhaus is, one of my favorite places in the world.
Oh, cool. Another thing that might sound a bit funny to say, but when I found out that you have a podcast and I saw that you interview people, sports people that don't climb, it somehow struck me because I thought, what? I thought Charlie was only there for climbing. So it was really funny to me that you interviewed other people. And then I started to realize, yeah, of course, you can't make a living just from commentating IFSC live streams. There must be something else in your life. So can you tell the people what else are you doing, and maybe also what are you planning now? I mean, now you stop commentating.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would love it in the future if somebody could make a living commentating the IFSC events. You could survive working for the IFSC, but you wouldn't be wealthy, that's for sure. I could live on what they were paying me, but it would be hard. So the short answer is I'm self-employed, and I always have been, and I always will be. I've never had one job. I've never really considered having just one job. I've always been self-employed, so a bit of work here, a bit of there. But I do have some permanent part-time things. The main thing I do is I work for a company called FatMap, F-A-T-M-A-P, FatMap, available on good app stores and Play stores and anywhere you download apps. Pretty revolutionary outdoor map and content and community. And go and check it out, fatmap.com. I worked for them for about 4 years now, actually. So I do have some security on that. I'm not just getting to the start of the year and thinking, right, how am I going to make some money? They're an amazing company. They're based in Berlin, which had it been a normal year, I would have been coming up for the Christmas party and we could have been doing this in person.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, working for FatMap. And also, interestingly, as you do more, the phone starts to ring. I don't necessarily need to chase people. Work will come to me. So recently I got contacted by a guy I worked with at Epic TV. He was doing a project for Red Bull and he said, I need someone who can write a script about climbing and then read it as a voiceover. That was nice work. Again, over the past couple of years, I've been working for a company in London who create tourist films for part of Switzerland. So we go to a part of Switzerland and we film me doing various activities and like a little 10-minute tourist video to different regions of Switzerland. That's really fun. I also wrote a climbing guidebook to Chamonix, and that was released 4 years ago, but I still get a check every month, which is really satisfying. And then there's also little fun jobs like Austria Climbing came along and said, we're going to have this socially distanced comp, and would you commentate? And every year there's little jobs like that are reasonably quite well paid, and I don't have to chase, they just arrive.
Is it possible that we see you in other competitions, like just smaller events? So like Austria Climbing you mentioned, no?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not finished with climbing and climbing commentary at all. Yeah. Definitely not. I don't have any sort of ego that, I used to do the World Cup, so now I can't do national cups or, whatever. I mean, I need to make a living and I enjoy it. So definitely lots of opportunities in the climbing world. Check back. I'll tell you more in a few months. How's that?
Okay, that's good to hear.
And maybe you'll never hear from me again, in which case it was nice to meet you all and have a nice life. Yeah.
I hope not.
But there's other, like you say, there's my podcast, there's other sports. I would love to get involved with another sport at the same time as climbing. I've done some ski commentating. That was great, by the way. I stayed in a 4-star hotel in Verbier in Switzerland. I can't begin to imagine how much it cost. And they were saying, you need to be at the venue at 8. So if you could just be outside the hotel at like 7:45. And I said, that's only for like 15 minutes. I've got to get up the mountain, ski to the venue. The guy was like, no, we're going the helicopter.
Wow.
Right, okay, cool. A bit more of that would be great. I can definitely live with a nice breakfast, a nice coffee, and then walk to the helipad and fly to the office. That was quite nice. So
climbing needs to grow a little.
Yeah, that would be... Can you imagine if I could just get a helicopter to the Olympic Stadium in Munich? But there's other sports. I'm passionate about quite a few sports, so there's lots and lots of opportunities. And I don't mean to be vague. I just don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm just confident I can do something. I've never been scared of quitting a job and taking my chances, which is what I've done now, so I hope it works out.
I experienced too that it works out, so you just have to be confident. And
what's the story there?
I also quit one job, not really knowing if it works. And then a week after that, I was doing the call where I was asked to do the national championships in Germany.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I did not know that this will happen. I just knew that I wanted to quit the other job. And somehow that I'm always saying that if you plant seeds, it might happen that somehow one of these plants will grow.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm not stupid. I'm not quitting the IFSC with no idea. I really believe there are enough possibilities. And as I say, I'm lucky enough to work for a great company like FatMap and have these really enjoyable and reasonably well-paid Swiss tourism videos and ski commentating. There are other things, but I always believe that there's even more. And I agree with that. I mean, one of my tactics for getting work has just been to email everyone I can think. If I think, oh, I'd love to do X, I just email everyone I can think of to do with that industry. And you probably get 1% of people right back. But if you just keep going, it's amazing how much you can get done if you just try it. And like I say, I'm never afraid to quit, in this case, the biggest job in climbing media. Something will always happen if you push it hard enough.
Yeah, it will. And I guess there are some people out there who know you.
Yeah, but they forget you quickly. That's for sure. I'm really aware you get forgotten quickly. So if I am going to work in the climbing industry, it probably needs to be pretty soon.
Yeah, we will see. I will hope that I will hear you again or see you again.
I don't know if you'll hear me. I don't know. Maybe I'll be behind the scenes. I don't know. But it's a growing industry, and you can always just call me anyway if you really need to hear me.
Okay, I do that now every week.
Yeah.
No, not every week, but like, in the turnus where we have World Cups.
Exactly. Yeah, go for it.
In the end, I have a personal question. I prepared you for this question because I thought it's a bit odd. There's one German athlete who told me something funny concerning you. We were at the Bouldering Worldcup in Munich in 2018, wandering around on the beautiful park there. And he told me that he has actually just one goal for the competition. He wants to make it to the semifinals because he wants to hear you announcing him. And I thought this was so funny. It was really like, I don't really care about the semifinals, but it would be so cool because of Charlie Boscoe. And this athlete is Stefan Vogt. Unfortunately, he did not make it to the semifinals. And the next year, he got sick. So he also did not make it to the semifinals. And yeah, now you stop commentating.
Oh.
So the idea is that I wanted to ask you, how would you announce Stefan Vogt on the mats? And maybe I will use a soundbed of cheering people.
Yeah, of course.
So I do that in the post-production. So
right,
now
okay.
It is Stefan Vogt coming onto the mats. And what would you say?
Mike, who's this German guy? Mike. No, that's not what I'd say. I'm joking. Okay, out comes Stefan Vogt, a multi-talented young man, a very talented filmmaker from Berlin, and no slouch on a rope either. One of the few ascensionists of action direct in the Frankenjura. Let's see what he can do in his first World Cup semi-final appearance. Here he is, out on Boulder 1 in front of the home crowd here in Munich. How's that?
Yeah. I think he will be very happy and also very amused. Okay, so thanks for doing this in the end of the interview.
No problem at all.
And thank you for speaking to me. So interesting.
Oh, my pleasure. It's really fun to talk about it.
Then thank you for the interview and have a nice evening.
Thank you too.
That was my interview with Charlie Boscoe, the voice of climbing for me personally. And I'm curious to see what he's going to do next. So keep us informed, Charlie, please. You'll find more information about him in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Juliane mein Name und ich bin weg bouldern.